This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time!
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah!
I finished these fights.
Give me a hell yeah!
Top Rope Nation.
Learn to love it. It's the best thing going today.
Welcome back to Top Rope Nation, episode 81, if I'm not mistaken. I'm Ryan Drosty, joined here by Justin Joint and Kyle Ross. Damn, guys, it's been a long time. Feels good to do that intro again. How's it going out there, Justin?
Pretty good. Ready to talk some wrestling with you guys for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, about almost exactly a month, I think. Kyle, how's it over in Cleveland?
3 years is a long time to be champion, baby.
Did you check out that Cleveland Cavaliers Chicago Bulls game of suckitude the other night? Or actually, that was earlier today. Feels like days ago.
I didn't watch it because it is the two worst teams in the league, and I don't like watching bad teams play in any sport. But
yes.
I was looking last night at the matchup. This is, of course, exactly what people have tuned in for after this long hiatus, is to talk Cavs Bulls. But
we got to catch up a little bit.
Yeah, and I remember a comment you made about 6 months ago. Maybe it was even a little more at this point, when you're like, man, if LeBron left the Cavs, who would be worse, the Cavs or the Bulls?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, it'd be pretty close. And well, it's pretty close, and the Bulls are a little bit better, but they are definitely the 29th and 30th best teams in the NBA.
I was disappointed.
Just for those of you who don't follow the NBA, there are 30 teams in the NBA.
Yes. I was disappointed the Bulls won that game. I'm going for losses every time.
Well, they have a lottery.
Yeah. As long as they're in that bottom four. So, yeah, guys, if you have never tuned into the show before, we are used to be a weekly podcast, but like I said, it's been about a month since we produced one. So we'll try to get back at it. But yeah, we've been doing this since the middle of 2016. So we are three friends talking everything pro wrestling. We usually have a good beverage on hand, a lot of laughs, and some good takes on the wrestling industry. So we appreciate you tuning in. If you've never tuned in before, or you have tuned in before and you've never left us a rating, go ahead and head on over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating. It would help us rank higher on there, get some more listeners, get the show out there in front of some new eyes and ears. You can also find us on Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, TopRopeNation.com, wherever podcasts are found. So this is going to be kind of our catching up on everything that's been going on in 2019 so far this year. And then later this week, we're going to put out episode 82. We'll give our full preview of the WWE Royal Rumble NXT TakeOver. And I do want to say, check out our partners over at Wrestle Rumble. It's WrestleRumble.com. They are going to be doing, once again, the game this month. So this weekend, for $10, you can buy an entry into their Royal Rumble contest. You can win $1,000 if you predict the matches correctly and all the stipulations and weapon usage and everything else. If you get all the winners, you get the timing of the matches down, everything, you win $1,000. I think places 1 through 5 all have significant cash payouts. So check that out. And also follow us on Twitter at Top Rope Nation. We will be giving away a free entry for listeners of ours later this week into Wrestle Rumble's Royal Rumble contest. So check that out. And you can see if you can beat myself, Justin, and Kyle. Every month it's a lot of fun, so check that out. I think the big thing, guys, we got to talk about is the launch of All Elite Wrestling, which happened in the early morning hours of New Year's Day. Did either of you stay up late to check out the Being the Elite episode where they announced it?
Nope, I was at a wedding, so I was 3 sheets to the wind.
Kyle?
You looked great, by the way, for it not being your own wedding. I mean,
Hey, thanks, buddy.
yeah, you did. I mean, I really like. I liked those photos in a real heterosexual way. But no, I didn't stay up for Wrestle Kingdom. Why would I stay up for something that I can just watch when I wake up?
That's true. I mean, there was a lot of excitement that night. I think everyone pretty much knew.
Yeah, that's the other reason. Gee, I mean, I wasn't going to start like, what was I going to do? Start like jumping up in my bed and like going, my God, there is a second wrestling promotion.
I think you'll save that for the 1992 WWF Superstars episode, launched on the network.
Yeah, I'm not that excited about that, of all the things. I mean, I always love the quality old content, but post-Mania 8 WWF is not their strongest run.
It's funny because I don't know, maybe he'll be tuning in, but one of my buddies, Mike, lives up there in Wisconsin. When we became friends, the big thing we bonded over was 1992 WWF. That was one of the first things he brought up to me. And this was in like 1999. And we talked 92 WWF all the time. So I immediately texted him earlier today. Did you see the WWF superstars are up on the WWE network from 92? So I don't know. I turned it on. I like that stuff. Honestly, I'd rather watch it than Raw sometimes these days.
I might actually have checked that out because post WrestleMania 8 was when I had my first big absence for wrestling for a few years. So I probably haven't even seen them.
I'll tell you what, man, when I saw like multiple, like the byline and it there was like 3 in a row. What will the Ultimate Warrior do to confront Papa Shango? I was like, oh no.
Well, I got to say, back to All Elite Wrestling, I did stay up that night, and I was having a real exciting New Year's Eve in my basement by myself while my wife and newborn and other child were sleeping upstairs. And I was just downstairs. I waited up till midnight, and then I was like, I'll wait up a little bit longer. And then it was like, it's only another hour. So I stayed up for the episode, and I covered it for comicbook.com. So I wrote up an article immediately when the news launched, but I was up. I was pretty excited. What's your excitement levels for the launch of AEW? Justin, I'm going to go to you.
I'm actually pretty excited. Not that I need more wrestling in my life, but I'm excited to see what channel they end up on. Hopefully it's one that I actually get because I haven't gotten the last dozen that Impact Wrestling have been on. I'm excited to see the production. Chris Jericho and Pac, I think, were big time signings. So I just really excited to see what all those guys do and who else they can bring in.
All right, Kyle, I hear you snickering in the background.
I'm sorry, somebody had sent me a message completely unrelated. I apologize for my completely unprofessional behavior on this podcast. I believe the World Wrestling Federation is in monster trouble. I think it's just a matter of time before they're number 2.
You're being sarcastic.
Yes, I was. No, my honest thing is I am very excited about the prospect of a second viable promotion in this country. Will AEW become a second viable promotion in this country? I don't know. But the prospect of it has me excited because if there's one thing I can go back when I look back at my wrestling fan, I'm like, yeah, that was bad take. It was my willingness to kind of just write off WCW. I mean, WCW was very bad at the end. I don't think there's any denying that. But I was like, if this company just, went to hell, who cares, man? This thing sucks. And, that the lack of competition for WWE is not a good thing because, we already seen, there's stuff on Raw, how much and how genuine this reaction is, this whole shaking it up thing we've allegedly seen the last couple weeks in WWE programming is, I don't know, but, for someone to be out there and push them, and for the talent, it's great because, they're going to probably get better deals. There's more options if you want to take a chance, leave WWE and go somewhere else. It's there. So I'm excited for it. I hope it works. But I'm not, yes, my initial response was complete facetiousness, and I was mocking people who just make me roll my eyes.
Yeah, I think in the long run, they could certainly have an opportunity to compete a little bit. I think one of the things that's different about this than Impact and ROH and any other competitors, even New Japan, is just like the sheer amount of money behind this promotion and the connections in the sports world that the Khan family has. You're talking about a family whose wealth dwarfs the McMahon family. I think the owner was ranked 65th in the the 65th richest man in the United States. Is like several times more money than Vince McMahon, and he's a fan too. It makes it a little different from the days of WCW. Like Ted Turner was kind of liked wrestling, but he more or less liked it because he had always had it on the Superstation and he felt kind of tied to it. But I don't know that he was like tuning in every week.
No, whereas, there was always the joke. It's like, where's Hulk? Where's Rick? When he would walk in and address the locker room.
Right. So he appreciated wrestling when a lot of the Turner execs didn't, but he wasn't like a big fan. Now the Khan family and the father and son are big wrestling fans, and they're putting a lot of money into this, and they're connected, owning the Jacksonville Jaguars. The team in Europe, the soccer team.
Fulham.
Yeah.
Tottenham beat them this weekend.
There you go. And that's Justin's team. So I mean, there is a lot of potential here, and I've read varying reports about how the money, like Chris Jericho, I think said the money offered him was more than WWE, and WWE is definitely worried a little bit. Yeah,
can I say about Chris Jericho? I'm glad he's not going back to WWE, and I don't think any success Chris Jericho has outside of WWE in 2019 is an indictment of WWE. I just feel that the idea of Chris Jericho, and I'll throw this back to you guys, in WWE is so boring. And that's not an indictment. Like I just don't want to see him in a WWE environment at all.
I felt that way about him for a long time, but I felt like the last couple of years of his last run were really good. I wouldn't mind seeing him back, but I also don't think he's a guy who really moves the needle too much for either company. You know, like he'll get some interest drawn for AEW, but I don't think he's the guy that's really gonna like put him over the top or anything like that.
Not like a Bill Goldberg who could get him on TBS.
Oh man. Check the archives. Bill Goldberg. A lot of Bill Goldberg discussions on this podcast back in 2017, early 2017. Mm-hmm. Justin, your thoughts there? Anything?
It's just significantly more interesting to see what happens with him in AEW than seeing him in probably some mid-card feud that ends up being kind of lame.
Yeah.
It just speaks to freedom of movement. You know, I remember it was a few months ago, it was right when we, after we had done our last episode, one of our listeners tweeted something about like biggest issues facing WWE today. And they had tweeted out something that I've always said, that an issue that WWE faces is the promotion itself is viewed by a substantial amount of wrestling fans, fairly or unfairly, as a heel almost. You know, fans are almost just cheering against the promotion. WCW encountered that problem in its final years. WWE is obviously doing much better than WCW was back then. But freedom of movement is something that is sorely lacking in professional wrestling in 2019. Even within WWE, I said this before on the podcast. I really wish that guys could switch brands in a more organic fashion rather than just this one time a year when like 16 guys move all at once and Vince McMahon yells, "Let's shake it up." And with Jericho, it just feels fresher when guys move. Like I've been watching a lot of like, you know, Mid-South and World Class on the network since over the last 6 months or so. And it's just like, you know, particularly with Mid-South, it's just kind of refreshing when you just are rotating the talent in. And it's just not the same people just kind of, oh, okay, let's just mix and match here with who we've got.
That's one of my 3 favorite things from the Monday Night Wars was just seeing who was going to pop up in the other person's federation.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I think WWE is definitely concerned. I mean, they're taking them seriously. There was the report that they were offering people contracts like on the spot. Did you guys read about that?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, something about like if they signed on the spot, they'd give them more money or something along those lines. So I mean, they're taking it seriously as a threat, and we can talk about it later. But the Revival, they're trying to get their release. There's actually an outlet that people can go to now where they're excited about it. Versus, yeah, you go to Impact and pretty much vanish into oblivion. Nobody really paid attention to you. But there's some excitement behind this. We'll have to see if they can parlay that into a success or not. But TV is going to be a big part of that. Now, I think they could have success streaming, but TV is, we're still in an age where, we're going to streaming, but yeah, you need television.
I mean, just look at the difference between, how the percentage of the WWE audience that watches Raw and SmackDown versus NXT. It's the NXT audience is a lot smaller than people realize. I think that people that are inside the wrestling bubble.
Oh yeah. So there's a few places they could end up. The hot rumor is obviously that TBS TNT could be interested, and that would kind of reignite the old WCW WWE rivalry maybe in the long run. I guess just seeing them on that channel would be really cool. It
would give them credibility.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Spike TV, which is like Paramount now, I believe. That is a rumor that's out there. I don't think
I put on Spike TV since Raw left it.
No, I haven't either. But they got the wrestling history with WWE and even TNA, so they could be in play. I've seen people rumored about like ESPN maybe even being interested. That would be a lot harder though, because with all the sports that they cover and having a weekly live show, that could be, I don't know, it could be an issue. But I don't. Do you guys have any predictions here on where they're going to end up? I wanted to kind of throw that out there. Or you want to take a stab at it?
No, I mean, I have no idea. I mean, there's a lot of like terrible. I mean, as we've seen, because I think like Impact constantly finds the worst networks imaginable. You don't want to get on something like that, where it doesn't even matter. Like you're just basically, oh hey, we're on TV, I guess, even though like no one's ever heard of these channels. My guess is they're not going to accept TV unless if it's like I don't want to use the term blue chip, but I guess I will, just because no other term is coming to mind. Like, some sort of established network. Yeah. Like, like the Turner networks or, I don't know. But ESPN would be great because the thing about ESPN is they hype anything that they have, they can hype to death throughout the day. So that's always good. I don't know how much room there is for it. I mean, I guess there's 24 hours in a day, so whatever, they can find an hour once a week. But we shall see. And I mean, the other interesting thing is, would it go directly opposite SmackDown on Tuesdays? It is Tuesday Night Dynamite.
That's true.
So, will they run directly opposite? I would imagine so. Although Impact got killed when they tried doing that.
Well, SmackDown's going to be moving to Friday soon anyway, so.
No, that's good. Never mind. That's a good point. Yeah. So never mind. Yeah.
They might go head to head though for a few months, which would still be interesting.
Yeah. Who cares? Yeah. Shame on me.
I think Meltzer had that report that they have 2 television offers that are pretty, on the table, so to speak, almost from 2 major networks. So
the Dave Meltzer network, I know, is one of them. I mean,
I know you have some Dave criticisms for later tonight, but yeah, I agree. I think they're only going to take a major network, which is pretty amazing when you think about it.
If they can get it. Yeah, I mean, who knows? They may not be able to get it either. So
it's not even. This is a company that's ran one show, which basically was in conjunction with Ring of Honor. They don't really have any history to build off of.
They don't have the rights to All In, by the way.
Yeah, that's another factor. So it is pretty amazing they've got to the point where major networks are talking to them, considering they have one show in their back pocket. It's not Impact never had a chance. Ring of Honor has never really had a chance with any of those type of networks. So that's impressive. And again, it's because of the connections of the ownership and the money behind it, I think. So do you guys think we could parlay this into the next topic a little bit and stay on AEW? Kenny Omega is obviously the big story right now going into the end of the month. Where is he going to end up? There's been reports out there that he's turned down WWE, which would make it seem pretty damn likely he'll be in AEW, but you never know for sure. So where do you guys think he's going to end up? And if you were Kenny Omega, what would you do, Justin?
Impact Wrestling. No, I don't think there's any way he goes anywhere but AEW. I mean, those are his pals, and they've been saying for months now that they're sticking together. And from what I've read, Young Bucks turned down a big time offer from WWE, which they almost kind of controlled their destinies. They could continue being the elite. So obviously it's really big on their minds to do something different away from WWE, and I think Kenny Omega is definitely a part of that.
Yeah, that being the elite thing, they offered him WWE Network, put the Being the Elite show, the YouTube series, on the WWE Network, and they were reportedly offered a 6-month option where they could opt out if they weren't happy in WWE. I've never heard of a contract like that with the WWE offering them, but they turned that down to start up AEW. Justin, if you were Omega, where would you go?
AEW. I think it's really exciting. Okay. And I'm guessing they're going to, working less dates. There's been rumblings of, maybe actually getting medical insurance or, stuff like that. It feels like a more viable long-term excitement deal, kind of like a ECW. That's not the greatest comparison, but if you just get what I mean as far as excitement goes.
Yeah. All right, Kyle, what do you think?
The WWE will be there down the road, if this tanks. So the interesting thing to monitor, assuming he goes to AEW, is the sort of positioning of Omega vis-a-vis Cody Rhodes. Will it be a 1A, 1B situation? I mean, is one guy going to be positioned higher than the other one? I think that's something to think about, because when initially people were like, well, Kenny might go WWE, I'm like, yeah, maybe that makes sense, because Cody, might very well be positioned as the top single there. And I mean, does Omega look at that and say, yeah, well, obviously I won't be the top single in WWE, but if I'm not going to be the top single here, then, might as well just take the WWE off, or work Cena, some other quote unquote dream matches and do that. But no, I think he's going to go to AEW.
Do you think that'd be kind of insane though, if they position Cody over Omega as their top single? Kyle?
I mean, Cody Rhodes is a lot of influence. I mean, we have seen a Rhodes with the book before, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I love what Cody's done over the last couple of years, but I mean, Kenny that's the star you got to run with, I would think, Justin.
They got Chris Jericho, baby.
That's true.
I mean, you could. I mean, well, interesting. You can push more than one guy at once. It'll be. I just think it's I think it's going to be a very interesting thing to monitor.
Yeah,
with those two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with both of you. WWE is going to be there. AEW is the exciting thing right now. He's been at WWE, in developmental over a decade ago, I guess it was. But he has been there, and he has seemed in the past like he kind of had some bad blood over that. But I think he was given reportedly a very generous offer to return. And I think, if they signed him, he'd go right to the main roster, just like AJ. But
you're making that kind of money, sure.
Yeah, if I'm him though, I don't know how, with all your friends involved in this and starting this, and it's so exciting, I couldn't imagine going to WWE when AEW is on the table there, and their money offer's got to be comparable, if not even better, maybe, for all we know. So it's going to be interesting to see like what kind of dates they work. They've announced 2 shows, and it looks like a third one they were teasing the other day. So they've got the sequel, Double or Nothing, to All In May in Vegas. And then they have a show in Jacksonville that they announced at the Jacksonville press conference. No date announced for that one yet. And then I saw the Bucks were tweeting out pictures of Seattle the other day. So now there's a rumor they're going to go to Seattle after that. So
lovely.
We shall see. Yes.
So another thing to monitor that I'm more interested in than, this press conference and whatnot is their talent acquisition. There's a lot of people who have made this point, and I completely agree, that you just can't be kind of cherry picking the low hanging fruit of the WWE mid card and bring them in, because that'll get old after, when Ty Dillinger, just for example, and Dolph Ziggler show up and I'm here, because this is where the big boys play now or whatever. And, I mean, you will have to move beyond just a anti-WWE gimmick. I mean, if for one night that can work, if the guy's like, hey, I'm sick of being underused and I'm here, to show everybody what I got, but you got to go somewhere from there. Just being anti-WWE, okay, that can maybe get some people fired up at first, but to make this thing long lasting, you got to give something tangible.
Yeah. I think that's also a mistake people make, is they assume that you take any mid-carder out of WWE and they'll be a star anywhere else, and WWE is just holding them back. And it's like, no, they're not all going to be stars. Just take
Damian Sandow.
Oh, yeah. Good example.
Remember the online, oh my God, WWE is so dumb. I can't believe they're keeping the Miz and not Mizdow. Oh, these guys are dumb. Smart fans.
And look at the Miz.
Sick.
Big fans of the Miz here on Top Rope Nation.
I mean, come on. And for the Revival, I would fight to keep if I'm on WWE. And by the way, as we went live and started recording this, apparently there was a segment with them and Vince McMahon, which I'm eager to watch. I was DVRing Raw. But guys like, to be honest with you, Dolph Ziggler, Ty Dillinger, I would actually let walk.
I would definitely let Dolph walk.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I get that, Vince, when you look at, it's so funny at the WWE roster and the way it's been managed over the last 10 years or so, where they just don't let guys go unless if they, do something really stupid or, don't re-up. Cody's kind of Cody and CM Punk are very much like exceptions to the rule. I lost my train of thought there, but
well, speaking of that guy, if they could talk Punk out of retirement, that would be pretty huge.
Yeah.
For him.
Oh, this is my point. Okay, Vince is very like when you look at the roster. This is what I was going to say. I apologize. It all goes back to like the mid 90s when Vince looks back at, he gave up on Hogan, he gave up on Savage too quick when clearly they had some more years to give. And Vince is like, I don't want to give up on these guys. I don't want to. But Dolph Ziggler, Ty Dillinger are not Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. It will not have that sort of cataclysmic impact on the industry if those guys just move over. If anything, they're guys that, should be used to put over AEW's quote unquote homegrown talent. Now the Revival, I think I hesitate to use the word big money, but I think there is a potential main event level match that they could promote them versus the Young Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Will it change the wrestling business? No, but, and I like the Revival too.
Yeah.
But, there's a lot of WWE mid-carders. You're right that there is kind of this misnomer. Oh, you free these guys, go to AEW, they'll show you what they got. Some of these guys aren't that great that aren't being pushed.
Yeah. Who are the guys that would be the big needle movers? Like the Hulk Hogan example, or not to level, but
there's no Hulk Hogan.
Not to that level, but like a major star jumping where it would really like kind of cause an earthquake in the industry. I would think Punk, if they could talk him out of retirement, Omega signing him is going to be pretty big. That'll do some big headlines. But who else? And can we think of anybody who could possibly jump from WWE that's even like possibly even rational that it could happen? AJ, maybe?
Yeah, AJ, Lesnar. If they got Goldberg, I guess. Cena would never happen, but that's their Hulk Hogan comparison there.
Mm-hmm.
But no, there's not a lot. Not a lot of top stars. Oh, Roman Reigns, that'd be fun.
There you go. Kyle, do you see any of that even possibly? Like, do you think there's any chance at all AJ Styles lose WWE?
No, I shouldn't say that. Any chance? No. Of course, there's some.
10%, 10%, 5%.
5.
Yeah, I also. I'm kind of.
People are talking. Look at the stuff. People underrate certain things because they don't. They think they know these people, but they don't. Somebody tweeted a really good point about Carl Anderson. There are all these people like, oh, Carl, come back to New Japan, man, where you belong, and you can be pushed again. Well, Carl tweets stuff. He gets to see his family now a lot more than he used to, and that means a lot to him. Sorry, Johnny New Japan. Carl Anderson probably cares a lot more about his family than he does about you. Okay, so hit the bricks, pal.
Yeah, I really don't think AJ would jump either, but it has been kind of an interesting debate in the wrestling world right now. But speaking of Johnny New Japan, I was going to get this plug out there. Check out our shop on shop.spreadshirt.com/topropenation, where we have Kyle Ross inspired Johnny New Japan t-shirt, 6 stars, not 7, 6, which that's a whole nother bone of contention that Kyle wanted to get into tonight was the Dave Meltzer star ratings on Wrestle Kingdom. Overrating New Japan matches too much, you think, Kyle?
If I have to answer that question, I don't know if we should be doing this podcast anymore.
Justin, you had an interesting point on the Dave Meltzer star ratings. Tell us how your view of those has changed and your own actions in regards to seeking them out.
Well, I guess how excited I used to be to check the star ratings just to see what they are after every pay-per-view, and ever since the 6 stars is just they've kind of really lost their luster and any kind of meaning or validity to them. Not in their subjective, so you got to take them with a grain of salt to begin with, but it was always cool just to see where he thought these matches lined up against others in history, and now it's just kind of silly.
Yeah. That's the thing, though. Like, how do you have the scale for like 30 years, 5 stars, and then you start rating multiple matches beyond the 5 stars? It kind of makes your entire grading like irrelevant. You've inflated the scale now. So ever since that, I haven't taken him as seriously as I used to. I still read him and I'm curious what he says, but I kind
It's
of had,
predictable.
yeah, it's really
He's
like
actually
everything.
he's actually a. That's actually the sign of. I don't want to call him bad because I think that's mean, but it is. It's the sign of kind of a reviewer that you just don't put a lot of stock into, really, when you just can kind of like, oh, you watch a match, oh, okay, this is what Dave will give this.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, sometimes whatever. I mean, sometimes we all agree in a match, it is what it is. But it's just all right. You and I had this debate months ago on text about Ronda Rousey, right? Okay, and I brought up this idea that when evaluating Ronda Rousey, you can't. There's a very large problem going on in wrestling today when it comes to evaluation of performers and matches. This is my opinion, and a lot of it stems from Dave. And look, like Dave should feel pretty cool about himself that he has, for the last 20 or even going back 30 years, has kind of has a tremendous influence on what a large percentage of wrestling fans consider is a good wrestling match, or who is a good performer. But the problem is, okay, that you kind of have these predisposed like checklist, and wrestlers are trying to like hit and people when they evaluate are just going through this checklist of what kind of they've learned through the years makes a good wrestler, and not really stopping to ask themselves the question, well, is this effective? Like, it's okay. They're, and like with matches, oh, okay, they're doing all these crazy spots. Oh, here comes the sequence where we start kicking out everyone's finishers. It's like, okay, fine. Yes, there've been a lot of great matches in the past where they did that, but like, are you into this right now? Like, when I watch Wrestle Kingdom, I hate how I've been put in this position where, I see the star ratings beforehand. And when I think everything is significantly lower, like, I'm like some like Debbie Downer. Like, by any objective measure, Wrestle Kingdom was a good professional wrestling show. The idea that it was anything close to the best professional wrestling show ever is laughable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you're giving that Will Ospreay match against Ibushi 4 3/4 stars, it makes me think you didn't even watch Will Ospreay wrestle Matt Riddle last year or Walter, because those two matches smoked that match.
Yeah, I saw Ospreay wrestle Flip Gordon at an ROH show at Chicago, and that match I thought blew away that one too.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with New Japan. We talk about the scale. New Japan, it's not a surprise what it's done, with Dave's star ratings, because the current New Japan product, no product in wrestling history has been more tailored to what Dave Meltzer likes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. That's my issue with his start. Like, to me, it's not, it's just, he's just getting what he likes. And my whole issue then with the Observer is, what makes me so disappointed in Dave's coverage in 2019. I have to be careful how I word this, because I thought of this and I couldn't believe I was going to say it, but it's almost kind of like a Fox News situation.
Oh my God, here we go.
Or I think a better term to use would be echo chamber than use, say, Fox News specifically.
Yeah. Dave
basically is now just telling his subscribers what they want to hear.
I think the correlation you're making is Dave is Fox and Friends and New Japan is President Donald Trump.
In a way, yes. Because it's just like, I mean, he does, if you read through and reading is my friend, Dave. If you read through, I mean, sometimes he's fair, but it's just like, when you look at it's just like, for instance, in what world is Okada versus Jay White 4.5 stars? Jay White is not a good professional wrestler. I'm sorry, he's not terrible, but he's not good. And that Young Bucks match got 4 stars. I mean, God bless you. I mean, Dave, my heart goes out to you. The man's father passed away. The Young Bucks did something real nice for him that weekend. They're friends. Okay. Not only was that match not a 4-star match, was a bad match. Like, I watched it, and at no point did I care about what I was watching.
Mm-hmm.
And if I feel if that match happened in WWE, here's what David write: typical 3-way tag match, lots of action, not a lot of heat, no one really cared, trading moves. But because it's the Young Bucks, no, we don't go through that. Oh, they hit all their signature stuff, looked great. And that's, I think, the problem people have, Dave. And there's a lot of criticisms of Dave that I think are bullshit, but it's very obvious to me that, with New Japan, it's just a style of wrestling he really likes. And New Japan is the best at kind of checking those predisposed boxes.
Yeah.
But it's to the point now where I just put very little stock in Dave's New Japan stories. For the record, I think a lot of his WWE star ratings present day too high as well.
Well, when you look historically at what he rated stuff 20 years ago, like we were talking about the best Rumbles the other night, and was it the 92 Rumble got 3 3/4 stars or something? Mm-hmm. But he did just say on Twitter, I think earlier today, that that's the best Rumble of all time in his opinion. So he's graded multiple other Rumbles higher than that one. But
what's funny is I used to think Dave was too critical back in the day, was too low. Like when whatever, it's a nerdy thing to say. Well, I compare what I would give a match to what Dave gave it. I've looked at through this stuff before. I would say modern era, I'm almost always lower than Dave. Like late 80s, early 90s, a lot of times I'm higher.
Mm-hmm. What, I should emphasize too, we're only criticizing him on the star rating issue right now, because I still have, obviously, as a journalist, like a lot of respect for Dave Meltzer, and I love the bios he writes in the Observer.
Yes, I love the bios.
Yeah, and every week I'm checking out the news section. We're talking solely, so no one misconstrues this, about the match rating portion of what Dave Meltzer does. Go ahead.
And I think he's hurt by the fact that he does not have a lot of inside info in WWE. I think
not these days, that's for sure.
It hurts the Observer a lot. And I think it totally affects his coverage of WWE, because he doesn't know where these stories are going. Whereas in New Japan, it's clearly obvious he knows what's the plan is. Yeah. And so he basically lays, let me tell you why this works, because they're going here, or they did this, because he's clued in. WWE, he's not clued in at all where they're going. And that's not to say WWE does a great job of storytelling anyway. Trust me, they have their issues.
Yeah.
But if you read it, it's Dave's lack of inside info with the modern WWE has really affected the way he has covered that promotion, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Justin's over there daydreaming about the days when I used to bring in the imprint Observer to our part-time job we worked at together, and he would just page through those over his lunch in the break room, like every word of that thing. You remember that, Justin?
Oh, that was amazing. That was like, I remember one of the first times I went to the Mall of America, and they had like a little kiosk of just ripped off VCR tapes of I bought like one about the Hardys and their independent matches. Yeah, that shit's exciting.
I think I might have borrowed that VHS from you back like 18 years ago or so. Oh man. Yeah, so God bless Dave Meltzer, but the match ratings have been obscene lately. Yes.
He was spot on with Sabre and Ishii, I thought. That was like my favorite match on the show.
Yeah. I don't know. I go here and there on the raise. I think it's one guy's opinion, so you can't put too much into it. I think people emphasize it too much. But
yeah, you're never going to agree with another human being 100% of the time. I always say this.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I always joke with this with friends. There's only one person you're going to agree with 100% of the time, and it's yourself.
And maybe not even them.
Yeah. So, I changed my mind a lot. So, through the years, I view wrestling in 2019 a lot differently than I did 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. So let's shift gears a little bit as we kind of take this home tonight, because we're going to be talking about the Rumble a lot later this week. Go ahead, Justin.
Just real quick, just talking about the star ratings stuff. Yep. Just real quick, we didn't get to really review 2018, and I'm just out of curiosity, I was wondering what your guys' favorite match of the year was.
Yeah, I thought about this a lot, and probably the Gargano Ciampa match from New Orleans is my favorite match. I don't know. I really liked Omega and Okada too, but I still think the best Omega Okada match was the G1 match the year before, though. That's still my favorite.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah, so I can't really go with the Omega Okada match. So I think I'd have to go with Takeover New Orleans, the first Gargano Ciampa. What do you think, Kyle?
I would go with a different Johnny Gargano match.
Oh,
Against
Andrade?
Yes, Andrade. Yes. John.
yeah, that was in the running for me too. That was a hell of a match.
Yeah. And I love that Walter Jordan Devlin match from OTT.
Mm-hmm.
God, did that match just turn me on.
That's that's the one we talked about a couple times on here.
Yeah.
Recommended it. What were you thinking, Justin, when you were contemplating this?
The same as you, but also that ladder match from that same show is just incredible. I just recently rewatched that. And that's just a phenomenal match.
Yeah, we got in this whole debate a couple weeks ago about there was a poll online about show of the year. Yeah, go ahead, Kyle.
I was going to say, just when you said you just watched again, did you watch it on the NXT year in review show? Because they they basically reshowed the whole match on the January 1st episode or whatever around. Is that when you watched it or just okay?
Yeah.
I am so glad. I would just like to say this. I am so glad I was there for that match live because I had not watched it on. Sorry about that. I had not watched it on tape, believe it or not, or maybe I had, but I couldn't remember. Mauro Ranallo, God bless him. Okay, I really respect what he's gone through personally. Mauro Ranallo in that match may have given the single worst big match play-by-play I have ever heard in 30 years of watching wrestling. It was unbearable how bad he was.
He is bad. He is very, very bad, in my opinion, also.
Yes. I mean, his commentary in that, I mean, I'm not a big Mauro fan, but that may have been the nadir of Mauro Ranallo. I mean, it was just like, alliteration out the ass. Bad superhero analogies.
I love how you always got to throw in that you were at that show while me and Justin were at ROH that night down in Louisiana.
The guys I was with, one guy went with me to take over. I was saying the whole time, I'm like, look, man, these guys they're all going to this ROH. Fuck these guys, man. Let's get this. I'm like, this takeover is where it's going to be at. And,
ROH was a good show.
Yeah.
Super card, but it was just too long. Me and Justin were burned out by the end, and it was a cheaper ticket. NXT. By the time we decided to go to New Orleans, like you had been going for a while, the tickets to Takeover were really marked up on StubHub and the secondary, so it would have been a lot more for us to go to that one. Yeah. But yes, I wish in hindsight I would have rather been a Takeover because that was a hell of a show, and I think for me that was probably the show of the year, in my opinion. And we were talking about, there was a poll someone had up on Twitter where all these people were calling All In the show of the year. And I messaged you guys like, am I just crazy or is this an absurd take? Like, All In was a cool show, what they did, everything, but I watched it and I wasn't like blown away by anything on that show at all. Whereas Takeover New Orleans had both 2 5-star matches, bar none.
Yeah,
Gargano Ciampa.
I don't know if they're both 5-star.
If we're talking about match ratings, I would give both of those 5 stars. The ladder match is unbelievable, and I loved Gargano Ciampa so much that I'd probably say that's my match of the year. So I don't know how you call All In the show of the year over that.
It's the barely legal syndrome back in '97, where and I understand it. Believe it or not, as much as I'll like sometimes. Snicker at like these people, online who are like, man, WWE is shook. They took Chris Jericho out of the opening package. That's dumb. But like at the same time, AEW All In did get a lot of people talking. It got a lot. People were very excited for it. That's something that is lost in wrestling these days, is people being excited for a show. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of shows now where it's like, oh man, all the wrestling was really great after the fact. But like, to me, a great wrestling show, you're really, for me, Takeover New Orleans, like I was just kind of alluding to, I really was looking forward to. I was confident that we're going to get that first Ciampa Gargano match. I was really psyched up for it. It delivered. That's what wrestling is. I think missing in today's wrestling is really looking forward to going to a show or watching a show. WWE, a lot of their shows wind up better than we all expect, but they've really got to work on kind of getting you fired up beforehand. I think it would go a long way with their product, at least on the main roster. So I don't, if you want to consider All In, I think it actually deserves to be in the discussion for best show of the year, but it was not the best show of the year. When you're talking about best shows, I do think you need to look beyond just the star ratings. Sometimes you just can't count snowflakes.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of All In and it being kind of like a different experience for everyone that went to that and everything, did either of you, when you heard the date for Double or Nothing, consider traveling to Las Vegas in May, coming up here to attend that show? Either of you?
No.
Kyle?
There isn't a single weekend I don't consider going to Las Vegas.
Oh, I was thinking about it. Part of the reason I was thinking about it was, man, if I could convince Kyle to go to this show, I would love to go to Las Vegas with Kyle Russ.
Last time I was in Las Vegas was my bachelor party.
I think it would be a hell of a fun time. We can talk about that more off air.
The waitress at Blondie's, quote, "Everyone in this bar hates you guys, but there's too many of you."
Nice.
It's during Cavs Warriors game 1.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I may have made some regrettable earthquake jokes to the Warriors fans. I'm sorry. That was bad.
Jeez.
That was bad. I'm sorry. It was one of my biggest regrets in life. I would like to. It's a new year, and I'd like to absolve myself of that. You know, if Alistair Black could give me black mass right now to the face, I'd take it because I was very drunk. I'm sorry. It was my bachelor party. I shouldn't have said those things. Golden State Warriors fans, please forgive me if you're listening.
Just think of the possibilities, though. We've done one live cast in the past here in Iowa. Imagine the second live cast, live from the Las Vegas Strip. Kyle Ross, drunk off his ass in Las Vegas.
Sorry. I just remembering now the best man of my wedding, like standing up on his table and like going to his work. You shut the fuck up. You shut the fuck up. Like just standing. It got out of hand, man.
What's your favorite sports book in Vegas, by the way?
That's a good question.
I've heard it's like the Westgate now. The old
the Westgate Superbook. Yeah, that's a little farther off, but because that was definitely one that popped in my head. We watched at that bachelor party. We watched the Triple Crown. God, who was the horse that won the Triple Crown? I can't remember his name now. But we watched him come in, and it wasn't Seabiscuit. It was somebody else. But it was at the Bellagio, and I remember my buddy snaked a VIP table by saying, "No, this was for us," when it was not. But that was good too.
Yeah. Well, just something to think about over the next couple of months. But it is 2019. It's a new era, and it's a new era for this show.
It's a new day. Yes, it is.
Yeah, 16, 17. This is our 4th year on the air, believe it or not, all the way back to 2016. So speaking of new eras, I want to say that WWE has been shaking it up recently, supposedly. And the big talk recently is that they're going back to kind of an edgier style with some of the segments they've had on the last couple of weeks. So obviously the Alexa Bliss segment on Raw last week, and then the Jey Uso Mandy Rose segment. So I wanted to get your guys' take on that.
That was pro wrestling.
I wanted to get your takes on the Mandy Rose segment in particular, and what we thought of that, because there's no doubt they are playing this a little differently, and some of this is probably the AEW effect, honestly, to kind of have a buzz around the product again. It's not Attitude Era, but it's more than what they've been doing. And so are we okay with this? Do you like it? Does it make a difference? And what did you think of the Mandy Rose segment, Justin?
I thought it was okay. I mean, just one of those, I kind of see where it was going. It was entertaining. It's maybe PG-13. I mean, not even quite that. So I don't think, I haven't seen all that much of a change.
I thought the Mandy segment was way beyond what they did with Alexa Bliss, but it seemed like the Alexa Bliss segment was the one that everyone was just like in a rage over. But the Mandy Rose segment, people weren't really in a rage of how she was dressed or anything. It was more about like, oh, the camera, how, they don't know the camera's there. This is ridiculous. That was what everyone was raging on.
Well, I don't think that's what they were raging about.
They're raging.
Oh yeah, that's what I saw.
No, it was because the Alexa Bliss seemed to be pointless.
Well, yeah, that
was
too,
just
but...
like, hey, we walked in on her semi-naked.
Well, yeah, why does she need to be in that situation? That was part of it. But you guys saw the criticisms about the cameraman, how they ignore the cameraman there in the hotel room. That's what I was
for that segment.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were talking
That's
about
what I'm talking
segment.
about.
Okay,
No, I'm talking about the Mandy. That was nobody was criticizing like how Mandy Rose was dressed in lingerie, basically. They were criticizing the camera situation. That's what I was saying.
Well, it just goes to the fact that people will find anything to complain about. I thought this was completely, both segments, and the online brushback from some was just much ado about nothing. Like, I didn't have a problem with it at all.
Apparently, everybody forgot that Randy Orton burned a cameraman alive in a cabin a couple years ago.
Yes.
I mean, folks, it's wrestling. There's going to be some silly things. Not all of them are going to work. Like the Alexa thing was weird because like I felt that it was just so awkwardly done.
Yeah.
Like where she's like, "Don't you knock?" And like I thought the guy had knocked kind of loud. To be honest with you, I mean, like, and she was just standing there, like, you know,
You saw her back. Yeah, you didn't see like hardly anything. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think it was like this offensive thing, and like apparently there's been some reports that it was her idea to do that. So I just think like, man, it goes back to echo chambers and Twitter. I mean, people just get so fired up about this shit for 24 hours, and it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're not going back to the Attitude Era. They like their advertising situation. Okay. They're not going to go back to that. You know why? Because they were the number one show on cable, but they couldn't freaking get a decent advertising rate to save their lives. So they're not going back to that. They just did a little something just for what the Alex thing was totally pointless, but the Mandy thing at least furthered a feud. I mean, it was not, you know, Steve Austin, Booker T in the grocery store in terms of, you know, on location, you know, angle development, but they were trying to further an angle. And it was different, at least, which is something I'm desperately looking for in wrestling these days.
Yeah. I thought the camera guy thing was super overblown too, because like if you think about it logically, yeah, it's ridiculous. But like WWE has always pretended the camera's not there backstage. And like I was thinking, it's not an exact comparison, but I remember watching the 97 King of the Ring. This is one of the most blatant like camera situations where it was so obvious that they were in on it, where Brian Pillman was giving an interview and Austin attacked him from behind. And then Austin like ends up taking him over to the bathroom and he gave him like a swirly. And then there was like a camera position at the top of the stall. And it was like, well, obviously they knew this was going to happen because they had the camera in position to film him at an instant from like above the toilet, you know, like,
it's and no one complained about that back then.
Yeah. Like,
because I mean, it was kind of fresher back then.
Yeah. But it's always been a situation where like the cameras are in the right place. They ignore the cameras. And I thought that was kind of much ado about nothing also. I mean, I did think of it like as it was airing, you know, where, oh, what's his wife gonna think? Well, clearly there's a camera right there, and you know, but yeah, that's how WWE's always been though. So I didn't see too much of that.
To their credit, like Jey Uso Jimmy Uso wasn't made to look like a complete idiot because he was like kind of like one step ahead of her. Because it would have been bad if the video existed and then Naomi still doubted him, you know, if they hadn't done that. So like, I actually thought that was I don't know if I want to use the word clever, but at least it was, you know, smart to do.
Yeah. So I wanted to put that over there for discussion because that was a lot of controversy this week that I was seeing. But
dude, people are bitching that they're fucking announcing the Royal Rumble participants.
I thought that was ridiculous. They've always done that.
Yes, dude, I used to love Saturday morning. You talk about 92 superstars. You know, I used to love when they would like announce like 5 or 7 guys.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about. I was like, do you guys all just start watching wrestling? Like there was all this fuss about, oh my God, the WWE is going to be announcing all the women on, and it wasn't even all of them, but a lot of the women on Sunday afternoon, every half hour, they're spoiling it all. It's like, no, that's how it's always been. They always announce the people ahead of time, and then there's just a couple spots that are surprises.
These people who like, I'm sorry, like these people who think like the surprises are the best part of the Royal Rumble every year are what's wrong with professional wrestling in 2019. I'll make that comment right here on this podcast. Because those surprises are so overblown. They come in, they get the quick pop, and then they're gone in 5 minutes, which is actually kind of bad booking on the WWE's part. Like I've never understood that, why these guys, these guys come back, you know, they get a kind of a pop, and then they're done with in 3 minutes. But you know, I've always thought the surprises are overrated. When people are like, oh, who's going to be the big surprise this year? Let's talk about who's winning. Let's talk about the storylines.
Yeah. To me, the best surprises,
freaking Big Daddy Cool Diesel coming back and playing it up like it was a freaking Hogan pop at 84 MSG. That tool.
The the best surprises to me, that my top three, just like right off the bat, would be
Oh, you love surprises.
well, I'm not saying I love the surprises, but sometimes it's cool, but they have to be impactful. To me, I loved when Kurt Hennig came back in '02, and I think he was into like the
He was
Final
announced.
Four.
He was announced though.
Was he?
Yeah, he was. They announced. Yeah, he was announced.
I thought that was a. I have to check on that. I thought that was a surprise entrance, and then he was in for a long time though. I know he was. I think he was in the Final Four, and then he stayed on in WWE for a while after that.
And then came that famous airplane ride.
Yeah. And then Cena, I think in '08 was pretty cool.
That
People
is
weren't
the best.
expecting him there.
Okay. You talk about a good surprise.
Yeah. That was a good one. And then AJ,
that.
obviously. AJ, when he debuted, was cool.
Those were two, because you know why they actually had long-term impacts on the promotions. John Cena in 2008 may be the greatest Royal Rumble moment of all time.
I don't know if I go that far, but it was cool.
I'll tell you why. All these so-called smart fit, in MSG, they're supposed to be the sharpest of the sharp there. Watching those, and of course Cena sucks, according to sharp people, right? Watching those people just reduced to the biggest freaking marks down. They're all jumping up and down. It's so glorious. I might actually go when this podcast over and watch that again, that closing sequence. I'm like, it is so glorious watching all these people who think Cena sucks just jumping up and down. That I remember watching that live and just being stunned when he came out. And the way he came out is like so odd, like how he just stood there. Also, Jim Ross's last great call in wrestling.
Yeah, it's been a while. It was really cool. I think those three to me are the best ones. But we'll have plenty to talk about the Rumble. Later this week, we're gonna have a full preview for the Rumble to get you set for that. We'll probably be putting that out like Thursday or Friday. We'll check our schedules, but that's coming. We'll preview NXT Takeover. But I will say that after a pretty bland couple of months in WWE, although SmackDown's been really good and Bryan's been awesome. I think the interest level in WWE is picking up.
Well, look at the time of year. December's always traditionally been their weakest part, and then with the shows falling on the days they did.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because they didn't have a live Raw for like 3 weeks or SmackDown. But I'm excited. You talk about being excited to watch a show. I'm pretty excited to watch the Rumble.
The card is stacked.
Oh yeah,
that card is stacked, man.
Yeah. So we'll like I said, tune into the show later this week. We'll have Takeover and the Rumble previews. So I think we'll wrap this one up. I think we've kind of caught up on the major stories that we missed out on in the last month. Unless you guys have anything else you wanted to throw out there for the good of the cause.
No, I'm okay. We don't need to impregnate anybody. Let's wrap it up.
All right. The everlasting wisdom of Justin Joint there. Love it. All right. Well, sorry it's been so long, guys, but good to talk to Justin and Kyle again. Get something out there for your listening enjoyment once more. And we'll check you later this week with episode 82. Like I said earlier, check us out, subscribe, like this video on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you're listening, subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever podcasts are found. You can check us out at Top Rope Nation on Twitter. We've got a Facebook page. Like us there. You'll be up to date on all the recent shows. So with that being said, Justin's going to take a swig of his drink, as am I. Kyle's going to...
Finest craft beer in America.
Yeah, right. I'm actually drinking a Bell's Hop Slam right now, the yearly release. Very delicious. And Kyle, you going to have any drinks when you watch the '08 Royal Rumble here in a minute?
Yeah, I'll probably just pass out while I watch it. After I'm done watching it.
Too many drinks earlier.
Yeah, I had throughout said like my wife and I split a half pitcher of margarita.
Yeah, I tweeted that out on the page before the show. So you guys knew this was going to be a great
love fried ice cream with all my heart and soul.
It's ice cream with frosted flakes on the outside from my days working at a Mexican restaurant anyways. That's how we made it. It was the cheap way, but that was Carlos O'Kelly's. So that's kind of Americanized.
Carlos O'Kelly's?
I worked at Carlos O'Kelly's.
Well, what was it, run by Germans?
Yeah, no. Americanized Mexican restaurant. But that's how they made the fried ice cream there. All right. On that note, guys, let's take it home.
Freaking Chaz O'Kelly's, baby.
All right. So I am Ryan Drossi. Find my work at comicbook.com. He is Kyle Ross and Justin Joint. We'll see you guys later this week with our preview for Royal Rumble weekend. Check you then.